You call that radio? You call that radio TV? No. You call that radio TV?
This is You Call That Radio.
This is You Call That Radio TV, and we're about to talk about something that we've never spoke about in the show ever. It's a new topic for me, but just to give you a little background, some of you might not know what GameStop is, or Bitcoin, or Reddit, or any of those. They kind of sort of recently have sort of came into the same conversation and it's became very mainstream for the first time ever. Well, there's been mainstream before, but this has been different from any other time I've seen. The background for me is I got on Reddit about a year ago, and I got on Wall Street Bets, which is a forum on Reddit towards the end of the year. It just came up as a suggested forum. And obviously I have no knowledge of stocks, shares, or Wall Street, none at all. But I was just interested to find out the terminology, the language that was getting used, and I just sort of would check it every so often. And then in front of my very eyes in January, everyone started talking about investing in GameStop, and everybody in Reddit invested in GameStop. It became a huge thing. I'm going to get some experts on to explain what happened, because I don't really understand what happened. But I remember being quite excited watching. It felt like this was people power showing Wall Street for how corrupt it was. And some people made a lot of money. Some people lost a lot of money. And I'm just wanting to know what's going on. And I'm delighted to introduce, all the way from California, we've got Justin is here. He's my first guest. Now, Justin, you might remember from a show we did a couple of months ago about his movie Brick Madness. So before we go to the next guest, do you want to give that a quick plug before we go any further, Justin?
Yeah. Hey, how you doing? Brick Madness is the movie that I've been working on for many years. If you guys can hear me?
Yeah, man. Sounds good.
Yeah, perfect. And so that's been really fun, and it is available at brickmadness.com and on Amazon. You can go watch it there. It's a feature-length comedy feature film about a national Lego tournament, a bricks tournament in our world. So, mockumentary, very fun.
We're going to get back to that in a little second, Justin. We will be talking more about that film in a bit. We're also going to go to an old friend of mine, Grant, who I've not seen for many, many years. But it's good to have Grant here. How are you doing, Grant?
I'm good, Mark. Thanks for having us on. Happy to be here.
And obviously, I initially, because I was so... just interested in this whole thing, because I watched it happen in front of my eyes, and I tried to get our mutual friend Martin on the show, who's an absolute legend, and he suggested that I speak to you, because apparently it was you that taught him all about the Bitcoin way back in the day. Is that correct?
It is, yeah. Martin's a great guy, really smart guy. So he was one of the people I would say that listened back in the day. He was taking on board things that I was picking up, and I was explaining to him, and he kind of understood and got it. And it's good to hear that he's sort of doing well. So I was actually chatting to him myself recently. So Martin's doing good.
Shout outs to Martin. So guys, obviously I gave a pretty shite introduction, because obviously I don't really know what it is that I'm speaking about. So maybe we'll start with Justin first of all here. Justin, could you just explain what happened with GameStop?
First of all, I am no expert at this, but I might know a little bit more than you do.
You certainly know more than me. So let's start with you. What happened?
Wall Street Bets on Reddit obviously got a lot of people excited about a thing, and part of that was because this guy Roaring Kitty, who was on YouTube, and he was doing what they call the DD, the due diligence of investigating why GameStop was one of the most, if not the most, over-shorted stocks in a long, long time. So meaning that a lot of people, a lot of hedge funds had betted against it. So they wanted it, they thought it was going to fail and they wanted it to fail. And he saw that it was worth more than that, in his opinion. He goes by deep fucking value on Reddit and other places as well. So he knew that it was worth more than what they thought it was worth. That's how he felt. And so he started talking about that a lot, saying like, they have it massively shorted. I don't believe it should be shorted to this extent. And we have the ability, he's sort of saying, if enough people were to buy against the shorts, to buy long, then it would mean that the stock, that they would have to start covering all those shorts. And then it got into all these other things which can theoretically happen, which is if they have to cover all these shorts really fast and then they have to buy the stock to cover their shorts, which means it forces the stock to then go up more, which means you get in a short squeeze, which means they don't have a choice. If they have millions of dollars against the stock, then they have to buy millions of dollars toward the stock, which means that they lose their positions and make the stock price go up. And then they have what's called a gamma squeeze after that, which gets even more crazy about how the stock market is able to get liquidity back and forth. And theoretically, it can go just astronomical, the price, because one thing, it's adding gasoline to the fire, basically. And so a lot of people got really excited on Wall Street Bets about how that could happen, what it would be about, how the Robinhood is a whole other part of this, but like they were the actual Robin Hoods, not the bullshit Vlad Robin Hood, which is a whole nother part of it. But they could basically take from the rich and give to the poor because they could all together make it go up because of what I said before, a short squeeze or a gamma squeeze, and make it go astronomical. That's a lot of what it is. And then they bought, and it's not a pump, it's a pump and dump, but it's sort of not as well. It's interesting.
Okay,
can we just start with the short squeeze? How would you explain a short squeeze to an idiot like myself?
Yeah, so basically when a company is shorting a stock, so in this case, as Justin had pointed out, there was about 88% of the overall GameStop stock was being shorted. So obviously they were predicting the price was going to go down. Guys like Rory and Kitty, for example, Michael Blurry, seen sort of value and they've seen that the stock was undervalued. They believed it was actually higher than where it should be sitting, and obviously the pandemic and things had played a part in that. So what happened then was when the people in mass through Reddit and things like that started buying up the stocks, what that does is the people who are shorting the stocks then have an obligation to buy back the stock. So when they then buy back the stock at a higher price, it means they lose quite a lot of money. In some cases, Melvin Capital lost well over $1 billion and had to be bailed out by other hedge funds. But what that actually meant was the stock actually then increases more in price. So the actual squeeze of it is the people who are shorting then actually join in and contribute with the price actually going up, which then pushes it higher, which is why you had a stock price rise to over $400 in such a short space of time, which was absolutely fascinating to watch.
How big a difference did this make compared to a normal day in Wall Street?
Oh, it was huge in terms of just the, as you say, eyes on the market, people paying attention. It was effectively the little man fighting against the big corporates and the Wall Street funds. And they were taken aback by that. Some say it was 4chan with a Bloomberg terminal. I would say that was a good way to look at it, and it was basically people almost trolling Wall Street, which was just absolutely beautiful to see. But it's piqued interest in stock trading a lot more, and that's a great sort of benefit from this. And some people would have made a lot of money off the back of this, off the back of the pain from the big institutions, which normally it's the other way about. So that was good.
Amazing. And just to touch on what you said there for Justin, some people did make a lot of money, but I remember you put a post up, Justin, because you obviously did invest in it, but I remember you saying at the time that it wasn't about trying to make money for you, it was about showing the corruption of Wall Street.
Yeah, it was just an interesting thing for me to be a part of. I didn't invest much. I invested $1,000 or whatever it ended up being, and it was much more interesting to me to just have a little bit of skin in the game, even if I lost it. That was It was okay in my particular position. Other people are going YOLO and they're putting in $10,000, $100,000. And I wasn't prepared to do that, nor did I have enough liquidity to be able to do that. But yeah, it seemed to me, and from what was going on Reddit and all the talk of, diamond hands and all that, basically diamond hands being the idea that you're going to hold until it actually does what you want to do, which is a lot, which is to the moon. Yeah, that sort of shit, right? So there's all this little in language that really feels like you're part of a crowd, part of a brand new thing, which is neat. And it just felt like you had the opportunity to do something that was basically unprecedented. And anytime, that doesn't happen very often. And so you want to take those opportunities. I wanted to be a part of that in some small way, a part of that opportunity. And I came in way late. I fucking missed it. Like, I didn't hear about it enough until it was actually like in the midst of that. And I don't know why, because I pay attention to that stuff fairly well. And still, yeah, there it is, to the moon with diamond hands, yeah. And so the memes are just so fun to me, and there was so much of it, and the videos that they would have, and you got your Braveheart shit, and there's 1,000 of them. Yeah, hold, all that. And it's just so fun. And so I was like, yeah, if I'm going to participate in all that stuff that's happening and give them all my upvotes and all that shit, then I might as well put in a few bucks and see what happens to it. So that's what I did. It was one of those rare situations where literally all you had to do was hold. Like, if everyone just hold, if there was that level of complete control over everyone that wanted to be a part of it, if they just held like nothing else, then it would have totally lived up to the expectations that it had.
But unfortunately, obviously, everybody's got there's the collectivism and then there's the individualism. So then once a couple of people stop holding, then the numbers start going down, then everyone panics and everyone sells, and then obviously it went from being very high. Grant, you actually know the numbers, where it went from initially, where it went to and where it went back down to? Could you just give us a little update on what happened?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So the stock for quite a while was trading around about the sort of $5 mark, which was way below the sort of normal price pre-pandemic. Obviously, due to being a retail shop, it's kind of expected, but a lot of people still felt that the price was being manipulated down actually with the sort of short sellers. So the prices went from sort of $5, it started to sort of climb up to the kind of $20, $25 region. By that point, some of the hype was starting to come out in the mainstream media. The price then went parabolic, which means it pretty much just goes up in a straight line. And I think we peaked at about $430, possibly, if I remember right.
Yeah.
But eventually, we sort of started to come back down quite sharply, which again always happens. Same with Bitcoin, crypto. If you look at some of the big rises that's had, if you go up too quickly, you always come down quickly is a problem. So the price came down quite sharply. But recently, the other day, we did actually have a rebound again to about $178, I think, and then it sort of came back down again. But again, it's still interesting to see where this is going. There's still quite a buzz in Reddit about it and things, so there is still a bit of potential that this could kick off again. Who knows?
Well, you said we, so I'm assuming that you also invested in it.
I didn't actually know. I'm more just a guy that's following the Wall Street Bet stuff just now in terms of the actual page. When I tried to buy, it was kind of the Robin Hood situation where the exchange had actually put a stop on the sells and buys. So it was a manipulation aspect to it.
So when, for example, I remember watching it before it became mainstream media, and I was like, if I had literally had the money in my bank account, but it was a couple of days before payday, so there was nothing I could have done about it. And then when I did get paid, I don't really have any excess money to be doing it. But I would have probably still just tried to put something in. But by that point, as you said, Robin Hood, which is ironic, just a coincidental name for it. Robin Hood didn't give to the poor. Robin Hood instead, like you said, manipulation, or did they have a reason? Was it manipulation? Because basically, just to explain to people, for people that are wanting to buy GameStop, they just put a stop on it so that no more people could invest, and that surely had a massive impact on this stock going to the moon.
Well, they were saying that there was a kind of liquidity issue with what Robinhood could provide in that regard. They're basically saying this is linked to their brokers because they're a no-fee platform. They take commission from the brokers and things like that. So there was a little bit of... Some people are saying that's BS, basically. Some people think it's just an excuse they're giving. Some people believe that there was kind of a warning sent down to them to basically halt the trading because they were just scared to where this could go. And the media fracas that was basically getting created by Melvin Capital, for example, losing well over $1 billion. So some people do think it was a helping hand. They're trying to say it's not the case. So I think more information in time will start to come out. But again, it's that'll be a wee while away, I think, before we really know the full truth.
A couple things to pay attention to there too is, like, for one, Melvin Capital owns part of Robinhood. I mean, they are investors in the company itself, so they obviously have some ability to talk to them and maybe get some preferential treatment. Who knows? That's illegal, but who knows? Also, they didn't halt trading, as you know. They didn't halt trading. They halted buying. They didn't halt selling. You could easily sell during that time. Whether there's liquidity issues or not, that totally makes sense that there could be. And that would mean that, like, they're just not able to make the market work. So many people are buying and there's not enough people selling because of the short squeeze and all that stuff. There's a lot of complicated things there that I don't quite understand, but I know that there was so much movement that it would be hard to balance those things, and the market makers have to keep those things balanced. So that's very possible. But I think
it's also a good excuse, though, isn't it? It's a good excuse.
Yeah.
It just so happens that happened. Solitech says, Mark, your mic's low. Hopefully I've fixed that. I've turned it up a little bit. Thank you. Let's just go to some of the comments here. I know we've got some people tuned in. Petra says, I've got my wallet ready. We've got Ali Grant's looking forward to it. Kaching. Lindsay says, let's go. We've got Paul saying, all right, Shan. We've got RD05019 saying, there's the boy there. Patrick Stewart says Elizabeth Warren's a Wall Street gimp. Is that true or false?
She thinks she's the savior of many things that I don't think she is the savior of. Let's put it that way. I think she's a little naive in what she thinks she can accomplish through her heavy-handed rule over the people that don't. Yeah, I'm not. Some things she does is good. She probably has a good idea sometimes. She's like, in my opinion, like AOC. She's good to an extent, and then some of it is completely wrong. That's how I view it.
We've got Mondito, a controversial statement here. He says the way things are going, Tesco loyalty points will be worth as much as Bitcoin. Grant, I'll let you see, what do you think about that?
I highly doubt it. You mean Tesco? I don't think the high street stores are doing as good, the supermarket stores and stuff. So I don't know, but you never know. Bitcoin could reach zero, so maybe Tesco points could be worth more, but definitely not anytime soon. So I would say you're still best buying some Bitcoin while you get the chance and ride that wave for another while longer.
Well, RD is agreeing with you there. He says, I don't know where you're getting your info, Mondito. Bitcoin's going to the moon. So, yeah, there it is. There it is. We got Lee Boyce says, one of the biggest eye-openers from following this is how many folk casually have 10, 20, 50k to gamble on this stuff. Made me feel pretty daft with my 20 AMC and few GME. What is he talking about there? Because I don't actually know what AMC what's he got? What's Lee got?
AMC is that's a theater chain here in America, and it's probably other places. I don't know if you guys have any AMCs, but it's a theater chain. So obviously it's had hard times the last year or so. But traditionally, it was AMC. It is doing shite, but it was also heavily shorted, and other people thought that it was similar to GME, and the fact that it was A, being shorted, and B, it had it was undervalue of what it actually was. And so that was a similar ride as GME. It just wasn't as big. It was like a mini version of what happened with GME.
Well, I mean that is the basics without complicating it too much. Obviously, there is so much terminology that it does seem confusing to maybe someone out there who's never invested before. But Grant, is it as simple as basically trying to find something that is doing shite just now and predicting that they're going to do a lot better next year? And I would imagine right now, especially because there's so many businesses that are doing terrible the last year through no fault of their own, and we would expect a lot of them to bounce back. So by predicting that, if you can predict someone that's having a hard year that will bounce back, but it's also not as simple as that, because there's so many businesses that might not bounce back, or they might bounce back in a completely different way. We've never seen anything like this time that we're living in just now.
Yeah, no, totally spot on. I mean, there's going to be a lot of value out there. There's a lot of companies that are underperforming just due to what's happening. I mean, for example, to put one right out there, Greggs, for example, if you invest in Greggs right now, you'll start to make a lot of money when things start to pick up and offices start to fill up again. But obviously the kind of main ones, travel industry, so companies like Rolls-Royce, for example, obviously companies that are making parts for planes, etc. They're massively undervalued at the moment. Rolls-Royce, for example, had to have a share issue quite recently. So they've created a lot more shares just to sort of fund some of the gaps that they're losing out on. Buying in Rolls-Royce, I'd be surprised if a few years' time you're not sitting with a nice tidy profit. Even cinema chains, so AMC, for example, here in the UK, we've got Cineworld, same type of situation. They've just took a beating because they can't operate as they normally would. So any company where you know that they would normally be doing something that the pandemic is putting a stop to, there's going to be value there, and even if you stick in 100 or a couple of thousand,
is it safe to say that like Cineworld can ride this out though, or are they just going to take such a beating over the last year and maybe the year ahead that they don't recover?
I think some companies like that will, yeah. But I think Cineworld, for example, I think they've got enough backing and stuff like that, they'll make it through.
They also sacked everyone. They sacked everyone, didn't they? They just got rid of all their costs.
Aye. Exactly. So stuff like that, you know what I mean? Some businesses have really cut costs to try and scrape through. So I think that type of action will see, get through there, I think. But, obviously we don't like to see people losing work. So that's not great. But again, when they do open back up, then they're going to need to employ a lot of people. So the jobs will still be there. It's just unfortunate people have lost their jobs at this moment in time.
Well, I mean, that's exactly what, I was thinking is like, obviously I don't have money to invest at all. So but I do quite like the idea of, I think like everyone, I like to think that I see patterns and I can predict stuff that's going to happen. And I think that there's also, I wouldn't have a problem with investing in a company that I could see was making good moves and who I think was going to do very well. I mean, I'm sure, like the company that we're talking to right now on StreamYard, I'm sure that people like them, like Zoom, all these companies just came out of nowhere. People selling webcams, people, there's been so many companies that just like must have went to the moon that was unexpectedly so.
Yep.
Yeah. And the thing, a couple
is that
things.
Fake value, Justin? Just to add one final caveat to that question, is that fake value because when things get back to normal, then people won't be using this stuff as much? Or do you think this stuff is just here to stay? We've all invested in a webcam, we've all invested in a subscription, and are we still going to use this? Because at the end of the day, sometimes we were going to, I would go into Glasgow to meet someone for a 20-minute meeting, and, we can do that. So do you think that I mean, obviously it's probably very overvalued just now, that's kind of stuff, but do you think it's too overvalued?
There's a ton of stuff that's overvalued. I mean, Tesla's way overvalued. There's 100 companies that the PDE, the price to earnings ratio, would show that what people have invested in the stock is way, way, way more than what they're worth. So that's not necessarily a good indicator these days of how that is, because people are so speculative. But what I would say is that things like Zoom are probably not going away anytime soon, because not to say that their stock is going to go parabolic or anything like that. It won't. It'll be pretty steady, probably. But it's not going to get cut down 25%. to 25% anytime soon. It's going to stay where it is for a while and probably continue going up because people are still going to use Zoom. And yes, that is the new normal of what we're going to be doing, in my opinion. I don't think people are going to en masse just go back to their offices. One thing to keep in mind too with regards to like the airlines, right? The airlines will obviously get back, like you're talking about Rolls-Royce and all that sort of thing. The airlines will get back to work and they will start making more money. So they are low now. They will be higher later. But there's not the same sort of psychological love and sort of class and age struggle that I think people definitely were attracted to within terms of Reddit and Wall Street Bets. Like, they're like, GameStop is my company. Like, I grew up on that. I love video games. You know, I'm speaking for them more so. That was what I was all about. Like, that was my favorite thing, going to GameStop and getting a game. And the idea that that's gone, or that the big bad fuckers that own Melvin Capital or Citadel are trying to force GameStop out of the world, like, I don't like that specifically. And so there's a lot of that. That was a lot of the reasons that people wanted to get behind it. It wasn't just because they thought they would make money, or it wasn't just because of the short squeeze. It was also because it was nostalgic for them. And AMC sort of plays a part in that too, because people like movies, and they haven't
memories from it.
Yeah, absolutely. That matters. I don't think this would have ever played out the same way if it were just, for example, an airline. Like, I don't think people have that sort of affiliation with United versus British Airways versus Qantas versus whatever, you know, internationally speaking, whatever it happens to be. Like, they're like, yeah, that's fine. I'll just use the other one. Who cares?
That's a good point about, and also I've seen someone, I think Colin, who was going to be our guest, he couldn't make it today because he got work stuff, or he's a very busy man. We'll get him on another time. But I remember, I think it was him that said a wee while ago, he quoted someone saying that to say that you've missed out in the Bitcoin bus is like saying that you missed out in air travel 40 years ago or 30 years ago. You know, remember, if you think about how much air travel's moved in the last 10 years. Just before I get you in to add to that, Grant, I just want to let people know that you've got to get the rocket to YouTube to watch the rest of the show. I know we're on Twitter and Twitch and Facebook, but it's all on YouTube now, so I'm just going to remove Facebook. So I've put the link in the comments. If you're on Facebook, goodbye. And get us on YouTube, by Twitch, by Twitter. We're just on YouTube now. So yeah, hello YouTube. So we're a couple of comments coming in. We've got, I think I'm partly responsible for Greg's value going up the past while, says Lee. And also I noticed companies like Greg's, McDonald's, Burger King, companies that I've never really used. Things like Uber Eats and Just Eat and stuff like that, but they're all sort of getting in the home delivery thing as well, which will probably keep them going. Paul says, it warms my heart to see hedge funds lose hundreds of millions when they short stocks with no concern for the employees of these businesses. Absolutely, and I think that was part of it. Grant, I want to bring you in just to sort of touch on what Justin said there, because obviously there's the nostalgia point of view that we obviously don't have because we don't know anything about GameStop here. But there's similarities that we could draw with other. But it was basically, for people who don't know, GameStop is a game shop where people buy their computer games. So you've got that going for it, and also the unfairness that these hedge funds tried to take down a well-loved company.
Yeah, no, at all. Well, yeah, no, I mean, when I was saying about the airline companies and stuff like that, it was more just to sort of put out there that, I mean, you could make some sort of reasonable returns from companies like that. I mean, it's never going to be a GameStop, that's for sure. I don't think EasyJet or whatever would want their stock price to go up like a plane and down like a dart. So, but yeah, no, totally. Obviously, GameStop was a different kettle of fish altogether. That was more aimed at, as you say, there was a nostalgia there. I'm a gamer myself, so I would feel aggrieved as well if somebody was to come out and attack sort of one of the retailers here. And yeah, I mean, you couldn't go into a store and just purchase a copy of a game over the counter, and I mean, pushing things to more digital. So totally get that. And
computer games as well. They're doing so much better. I don't know if this is down to the fact that it's so much harder to to steal computer games, because obviously the music industry's suffering terribly with it did from piracy, and now from streaming companies like Spotify just taking all the money and not really paying the artists fairly. Is that why GameStop was? I mean, let's talk a little bit about deep fucking value. I think, or whatever his name is. I mean, I'll maybe bring up a little clip of him talking about it. I mean, he did give quite an impassioned plea, and he sort of set the ball rolling, didn't he, Grant?
Yeah, no, Keith Gill is his name. He was a chartered analyst. He worked for an institution, so he already had a kind of background in understanding and value investing. So his background was to research companies, which is definitely something I'd recommend that anyone that's getting involved in trading, whether it's crypto or buying into stocks. One of the key things is know what you're buying into, so do that research. So one of the things he was doing is he would sort of look at companies, look at their annual reports, their quarterly reports, and their profit and losses. And he would be able to pick out within that data which companies were potentially lower value than where they should be, or opposite if it were higher in value. Like Justin was saying with Tesla, for example. So he came across GameStop as one of his targets, and Michael Burry as well, who was the guy that was in The Big Short, who was played by Christian Bale. He also was invested in game as well, so he's notorious for being able to spot stuff. So he also looked at that and sort of seen the same idea that GameStop was undervalued, and they got the ball rolling. Got
and what a pitch! He pitched it. He gave a really good pitch. It got everyone excited for it. I've watched the original video from it. I've got a bunch of videos that we may or may not use, because I know that we might get copyright issues if I play anything, so I might not use them. But he's obviously now having to give he's in court, isn't he? Do you feel that what he did was illegal? Is that by encouraging everyone to do that? Is it illegal? I mean, do you think it's illegal, Justin?
No. I mean, what he specifically did, saying, for one, I'm not a financial advisor. For two, I'm not giving anyone specific advice on what to do. For three, I just like the stock and I see value here. And for four, he was never actually physically saying, like, if we all get together and buy this, then XYZ will happen. There was no collusion in language of that sort. So I don't think it's fair to say that he was doing that. I think it's fair to say that Melvin Capital and some of the other hedge funds and Robinhood and all those were way more collusionary than he was. And when Jim Cramer, there was a video floating around about what Jim Cramer said. It's Citadel Capital was the other one I was thinking of. There is far more backdoor collusion that's going on in there. And Keith Gill was honestly just coming to the Senate and all that to talk and say, like, this is what I did. This is how I went about it. This is why I thought it was a good idea. I'm not liable for what anyone else does, really, because I didn't tell them what to do.
Grant, do you think you'll get away with it?
I think so, yeah, because what we're talking about here as well is almost taking away his First Amendment rights to actually speak about stuff. Reddit's a platform where people can speak their minds. So effectively, if they start attacking that, they're effectively targeting the First Amendment, which is right for freedom of speech. And I totally agree with what Justin said there. He didn't breach anything in that regards. I think there's a lot more insider trading from bigger companies that make what Keith Gill done look absolutely minor. He just was smart about it. He did manage to put some stuff out there that kind of piqued people's interest. There was a bit of tinder lit that then it started a bonfire, and then a forest fire eventually grew out of that, and now we've got the situation that was created. So I think he'll get away with it. I feel it would be hard for them to charge him with something specific, but if people
they're just raging because they weren't in it, and all this insider trading kind of backfired on them for a change. When Dito was saying, as a PC gamer, became more accustomed to buying games digitally a few years back, as most chain shops, game shops stopped selling PC games, and yeah, absolutely. But I think what his claim was that it was still undervalued because they were still selling a lot of games. Also, there is the opportunity for them to be still selling games online on their website, from a website that people know and trust. And secondly, there is maybe an opportunity for them to do stuff with the actual stores themselves, like maybe having like a place for people to play games together, maybe tournaments, or making these places like a kind of sort of a hub where people can get together and maybe, I don't know, drink coffee and talk about computer games and stuff. I'll let you answer that one, Justin, because obviously I know you're more familiar with how many GameStop stores are out there and stuff like that. Do you think it is an actual decent claim that there is a lot of value and they could actually turn it around?
Yes, I think that it has the opportunity to do that, and I think it was so severely undervalued is really what it comes down to. It was in the realm of how many overvalued companies there are out there. It was so undervalued that even just having it at like fair market value meant that it would grow a lot. So it's not even saying like GameStop's going to be able to do all these things. Hopefully, it's like GameStop is already doing enough things to be worth more than what it is, what its share price reflects. And really, that's all he was trying to say. And if it does any of these other things in the future that would help it as a company, which there's a lot of potential for, then it's going to be worth significantly more.
And the good part of it was just a wind up, just to see what happened as well, of course. When Moon asked Lindsay, Moon coming, don't worry, Lambo, soon, Lindsay. Oh yeah, Lindsay's asked me earlier on. Sorry, I missed that. There's a few. I'm not been keeping up with all the comments, but Lindsay wanted us to talk about Palantir. Palantir. Sorry, I don't know. Grant, what is that? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, well, I'm invested in Palantir myself. It's Peter Thiel's company, who's part of the kind of Elon Musk gang when they were at PayPal. So Peter Thiel's got this new company, Palantir, which is basically a data collecting company. They've got some really interesting software. They're working a lot with big governments and stuff just now, so some people are wary of the company because the potential of the applications could be wide-reaching, but there's also a lot of benefits. So it's basically been able to model companies from the very ground to the top floor in terms of what they do, all the processes and things like that. So if you think about it as a big data company, basically, but at the moment they've been linked with some programs that might not be too good for their reputation. But in terms of a company, they do look promising, shall we say, over the next coming years. I would imagine they'll probably do quite well.
Justin, anything to add to that?
No, I don't know nearly as much about Palantir as he does.
Lindsay would like you to say the word shite again, Justin.
Shite. That's my version of how you guys would say it.
Yes, that was good. That's really good.
That's good. We got. I just want to we'll go back to Bitcoin, Grant, because obviously you got in early with Bitcoin. Yep. For people that actually don't know what Bitcoin is, can you just explain what is Bitcoin and why is it done so well? And in fact, and how far has Bitcoin come from when you started getting into it?
Yeah, so I mean, first, just quickly to go over, Bitcoin was a kind of evolved out of the aftermath of the 2008 collapse. The first Bitcoin was mined in January 2009, so it was absolutely poetic that Bitcoin happened at that point, because it was effectively offering the world a new way, a decentralized way of managing finance through blockchain. So it effectively means that I can send money to Justin across the world, and we don't need any middlemen like banking or anything like that. You have miners, and you have people that run nodes that basically run the network. So the miners mine the coins that protect
and
the network.
And how do they mine the coins, man? Because that's something that I don't quite understand, even though I've had it explained to me before. What is Bitcoin mining? What is mining?
Yeah, so the Bitcoin mining is initially it was using graphics cards. So there's a whole thing just now about trying to get your hands on good graphics cards is pretty hard because they're all being bought up for Bitcoin mining. So basically you could use your laptop back in the day and you could actually mine Bitcoin. And if you started in 2010, you could have been making an absolute fortune just using a basic laptop. What it does is the graphics card basically solves a mathematical puzzle, hashing if you like. So it's a mathematical puzzle, and the graphics card processors solve the puzzle. And every 10 minutes there's a blockchain reward, and that's basically halved every 4 years since Bitcoin was started. So it started off initially every 10 minutes 50 Bitcoin would be released to the miners and people who'd solved the puzzle basically, and then you get the halving, which is when the mining amount is reduced basically. So every 10 minutes at this moment in time, it's 6.25 Bitcoin is what the miners basically get, and you need more than a standard graphics card now to mine. It just wouldn't be possible doing it with just a basic one. You need a full proper rig to mine.
Lou's saying this is a foreign language to me. I will never understand Bitcoin and how it all works. Well, just to simplify it, if Lou was to invest, say, £1,000 in Bitcoin today, what would be the chances of that in making it? Is it too late? We talked about that briefly early on. Colin made the good example of, I mean, it's been 10 years of Bitcoin, so a lot of people say it's too late to do that. Would you say that it's not too late, or what are the increases and decreases looking like at the moment?
I would say definitely not. I mean, I heard people tell me, but it was too late to invest when Bitcoin was $500 a coin. So it's definitely never too late, especially when predictions are looking like by 2025 we could have 1 million a coin. Tim Draper, who recently bought more, came out and said by 2027 he thinks it could be 5 million a coin. So I mean, the numbers that some people are putting out there are absolutely astronomical. I think by the end of this year 100k plus is very doable, and you can put in as little money as you want. You're not tied in. I mean, I'm not giving anyone financial advice, of course, but you're never tied into how much you want to invest. I would only say invest what you're willing to lose is the key. And you'll never go wrong.
Also make sure you keep your Bitcoin password safe, because I've heard stories of, there was a guy recently who was asking Newcastle Council to let him go through the bins to find his old PC that apparently had about £500,000 worth of Bitcoin in it that he flung out by mistake.
Yep. I'd go through his bins for that amount of money, to be fair. So. But yeah, no, of course you need to protect your Bitcoin. I know people personally. Thankfully, they only invested small amounts at the time, but they lost their passwords and then they can no longer access it. So it's the same with anything. It's good because it's designed to be hard for people to hack. So you need to make sure you obviously cover your own back, have good, strong passwords, keep them safe, all that sort of stuff. If you do that, then you should be fine.
There's loads of stories about that. Like there was a guy in Reddit who said that he got a £500,000 pizza or something. He bought a couple of pizzas back when Bitcoin was worth nothing, and there was a pizza company that was one of the only people that accepted Bitcoin. So he went and bought a couple of pizzas, and obviously now he's like, oh shit, that was it's a £500,000 pizza or something along those lines. Mendito says, I've got a decent rig with an 8 gig graphics card. Would mining be a good idea? Has the boat for mining gone now?
For Bitcoin, it has. Yeah, you could mine Monero or something like that. You can mine a different thing. It depends how much your power costs. Really, that's the main determinant of any useful mining scenario. So if you got cheap power, I don't know what it is over there. Over here, if it's like, I think the sort of idea is like 8-10 cents. If it's less than that, maybe per kilowatt hour, then you have a decent chance of making money, and maybe more now because the prices have gone up on everything. But like right now in California, it's really expensive, or just in general. So my power might be 35 cents per kilowatt hour. And so me buying a rig, even if I turned it on tomorrow and had everything perfect, there's no way I would make money because it would just take too much power.
I think RD050190's hit the nail on the head. Definitely past the point for recreational mining. Better sticking to your Tesco loyalty points. And that's why obviously a lot of these mining farms are springing up in countries with cheaper electricity and stuff like that. So it's a proper business now. So you're not going to be able to do that. But I like that you touched on the other cryptocurrencies. So we've been talking about Bitcoin completely. But there's a few outsiders there that seem to be doing okay, that they're not on Bitcoin's level at all. And then there's obviously the funny Dogecoin or Doggycoin or whatever everyone's calling it, which is basically just a meme that was made as a joke. But Elon Musk, he mentioned it on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, and then that put the stocks up again. And also, Elon Musk was just, I think, was it Tesla or was it him that invested in a lot of Bitcoin as well? And that also made the markets change, because obviously Elon Musk is such an influential figure that, you know, technically, surely that's almost like, that's the same as surely manipulating the market as it was for a deep fucking value as well.
Yeah, it has the same effect. Well, it has way, way, way more effect, because a lot more people care about what Elon Musk has to say than Keith Gill, rather. Yeah, he was sort of, and that's within the realms of Reddit. People aren't so sure that it's good for him to be pumping things like Dogecoin, or whether he actually is. I mean, obviously people bought because he talked about it. But that's sort of people being, you know, they're living and breathing the hype that other people have too, rather than investing for a certain reason. The fact that Tesla bought $1.5 billion of Bitcoin, I think, was inevitable. That was going to happen, and there's a variety of reasons for that. One of the reasons is that the United States printed whatever it was, 20% of the dollars that ever existed in the U.S. they printed last year alone, and they're printing a bunch more this year with another of the stimmy packages. So there's a lot of issues there for the United States economy and the world economy, and a lot of reasons why rampant inflation, whether it's sort of faked into not being inflation or not, is still a problem, and why something like Bitcoin, which is a hedge against inflation in one way or another, would be very smart for someone like Tesla to take on. Or this guy Michael Saylor is one of its big proponents, and he runs a company called MicroStrategy, and they've been one of the biggest ones, and they've made way more money on Bitcoin recently than they've made as being a company. So it's an interesting place to be.
Just put a tweet out, and you know, the money pays for itself. So it's an interesting amount of, you know, social media that Elon has.
Sure.
That he can.
Those are short-term effects, though. I mean, you got to think about that. Dogecoin came back to base. It went up and then down and then up and then down, and it ended up sort of back where it was. Maybe it's still high right now, but everything is high. You know, and you got to look at the whole space too. There's hundreds of coins that you can buy. There's thousands of coins out there. A lot of people don't. You know, those other smaller ones have very little. Bitcoin has more market value, I think, probably than every other coin combined. It's certainly more than the top 50 combined. So, but the way Bitcoin goes, almost all of the other coins track very closely with that too. So it's a very sort of insular situation, even though they're not linked in any specific way. It's just sort of how it works out.
Absolutely, because if there's a big mainstream hype going on about Bitcoin for whatever reason, then people might look at it and go, well, this is really quite expensive to invest in, so they'll maybe look at a cheaper alternative and try and find another one. So yeah, they are kind of linked as the market. What's good for Bitcoin is actually ironically good for the competitor coins, not that they're actually in competition, I don't think exactly. But Grant, is there any other coins, cryptocurrency coins, that you think have got a good bet of increasing in value?
Yeah, no, there's quite a lot there. The DeFi space just now is the big one. After obviously Bitcoin was the kind of initial fad of crypto, then you had ICOs, which were initial coin offerings where people could buy percentages in companies. Now we're at DeFi, which basically just means decentralized finance, and through that we're now looking at some very interesting cryptos. So I would say Cardano, which is ADA, is a very interesting platform. You've got Polkadot, which is again is a very interesting project. Cardano, for example, has just went over £1 per coin, so I'm sure somebody's got a couple of pound lying behind a couch somewhere that they could fling in. So it makes it more more easy accessible for certain people. But yeah, there's quite a few in that space, I would say, that are creating they're not just a token for the sake of it. They've actually got use cases as well. Which
I see Justin nodding there. Justin, anything to add to that?
Yeah, Cardano is the one I like right now. I mean, I have much more money in Bitcoin than I do Cardano, but Cardano ADA is the most promising in my estimation of actually having use case scenarios that are actually working, talking about bringing this decentralized finance and sort of small smart contracts to other foreign countries, especially Africa, and being able to put all the use scenarios that blockchain and smart contracts and all those things, the ideas that were that came about because of what Bitcoin did originally, but aren't really built into Bitcoin. All those things are going to be extremely revolutionary in the next 15, 20 years and are going to make a big splash into just how we run our lives. And we have to think about it too as like being first world country people. Like the idea that I need to worry about the deed to my house, that it will be wiped away in some coup because there's a civil war and now deeds don't matter because the House of Records got burnt to the ground. Like I don't worry about that. Other people might. Other people in foreign countries might. The idea that I'm going to be sending back and forth money to a third world country and that there's going to be huge fees on that or that I can't get a bank loan or none of that shit worries me. But there's billions of people that worries or that they have no access to that sort of thing. So theoretically, that's what Cardano is going to be able to do, and some of the other platforms, and that's certainly what Ethereum's trying to do with all the other coins that operate on the Ethereum blockchain. But Cardano seems like it has the best ideas about how to bring that forth. They've been around the longest. They've been around long enough, but they also have the best ideas, and they're also putting it into action. They don't have quite as much of the baggage as some of the other ones, but they have enough of the experience to go forth. That's what I would say.
It's interesting that we're talking about looking forward, we're talking about what could happen in the future and stuff. And for me, obviously, someone who knows absolutely nothing about this stuff, it does seem to me that first of all, the fact that it's decentralised, the real economy, we'll call that, is absolutely it's shambolic just now. I'm in the middle of watching an Adam Curtis documentary about it all, which is kind of breaking down. Oh yeah, man, I'm on one more part tonight, and then I'll be able to talk about it properly. But it's a shambles. So it seems like having a decentralised option is going to be good because the world's in a strange place just now, and also something that I think the more people that have Bitcoin, then there's going to be more opportunities to use it. Because right now I think the reason that so many people don't quite get it is because you can't actually use it in many places. But, I mean, do you think that Tesla will start accepting Bitcoin? Do you think there's other Bitcoin cash machines I've seen springing up as well? Is there, what do you think the future looks like for Bitcoin, Grant, in a more kind of physical world and a more physical presence that then maybe people will see the worth in it a bit more?
Yeah, well, there's companies have been accepting Bitcoin for quite a number of years. Richard Branson was famous for Virgin Galactic. If I wanted to part with some Bitcoin, I could fly to space, for example, and that was years ago, before it was kind of popular by guys like Elon Musk and stuff. But yeah, no, there's apps out there that make spending your crypto a bit more accessible. One I'm using at the moment I'd recommend is crypto.com. If you sign up to the guys, you can actually purchase crypto, but you actually can sign up for a Visa debit card, and you can actually then use that to just spend in shops. Another big one is PayPal. Is basically from March, so this month actually, possibly by the end of this month or into the April Q2.
That's huge.
PayPal are going to be they're going to be allowing businesses to actually accept crypto and make it very accessible to even the wee mum and pop stores, as they would say in America.
That actually, not that I've got money, but I think if I had money, that would be enough for me to put a wee investment in, because I think that almost everybody has PayPal now. PayPal's became so important over the years, and like them or not, they're here to stay. And if they're taking it, so it means that your investment's going, it's all in one place. Most people are buying things via PayPal these days online, so that's huge. That's a massive one. Someone was asking about Lindsay. Sorry, Lindsay. XRP. She's asking about XRP. What is that?
XRP's got some problems with the SEC, the Securities Exchange Commission here in America. So I don't know exactly what it was, but they weren't doing their book quite right, and it took a big hit. XRP was a very promising platform for a variety of reasons, and one of the best ways, it was competing with Cardano to an extent, but a lot of big finance was getting into it. And they just had some problems, and so they haven't sorted that out yet, and that's why XRP's it's very much in limbo right now because of that stuff.
Grant?
Yeah, no, exactly as Justin said. Basically, Ripple was looking like it was going to start to fly, and then all of a sudden it just got hit with this sort of securities investigation, and now it's going to courts. But I've been told by a very good source, which was Lindsay, who's actually Derek, who's one of my mates, that they've got 21 lawyers on the case. So he's done quite a bit of reading into it, and from his point of view, he still thinks it's they're going to come away with a win. And then from that point, I would imagine Ripple XRP will shoot to a mini moon in that regards. But again, I personally, I'm not going to get near it until close at the time we actually see what happens, because you're basically taking a big risk on the courts deciding on this one, and to me that's no something I want to invest in. But he seems pretty confident that it's going to go through. So he's a bit more into it than me. So we'll see how we go on with that one.
It's got big potential if they clear the court
yeah.
stuff. Absolutely, yeah.
Well, just to sort of wrap things up, let's just talk about potential. What has potential? What are you confident for? And also, this is not financial advice. We're not giving financial advice at all. But yeah, what do you think's got potential, Justin?
Well, it depends how long you want to hold, and it depends what you think. You know, we are in the midst of a bull run, and there's a reason why, and it was what he spoke about earlier, was the halving. So these things happen every 4 years, pretty much on clockwork, and that's why it's going up right now. And so when I said earlier that like all the other altcoins, basically everything else but Bitcoin goes up when Bitcoin goes up, long-term speaking, then that's what we're in the midst of. So the fact that we had the halving 9 months ago or whenever it was is the reason that everything is going up. And there's also these other reasons why why it's more popular right now, why the institutional money is in it, like we're talking about with Tesla or MicroStrategy, or the fact that PayPal's into it, Cash App is into it, Amazon Amazon's actually using Ethereum for its, that came out today, I think, for AWS stuff. So that's a big deal. But what's going to happen with Apple Pay or Google Pay, right? Those are going to have to eventually accept Bitcoin and other cryptos, and that's going to be another thing that legitimizes the whole thing. So what we're looking for is the end of the bull run, basically, which might be in 6, 8, 10 months. Who knows? And it might be at the end of 2021. But eventually it will cool off again, and then probably sort of sit for a while, and then in 3 more years go up again. But I don't think that we're going to retrace our steps completely. So if you want to walk away, if you want to put in $5,000 and then walk away for 5 years, you might be in a really good spot. But if you want to time it a little bit better and maybe take it out or buy more in at the end of the year, that's maybe a reasonable way to look at it. A lot of people say dollar cost averaging, just putting in money when you have it and keep building over time, basically. It's hard to time the market, and who knows exactly what's going to happen. But I believe that for the next few months, it will continue to go up, and that will have ripple effects all throughout the crypto space.
Well, Red Bulling effects. We've got, Lou said, every time you say Lambo, I think you're talking about Lamborghini. Aye, mate, a bottle of Lamborghini would be your worst case scenario for a couple of quid investment. If anyone had invested in the original Iron Brew, man, if you'd actually bought all up the original Iron Brews, because Iron Brew is now reduced the sugar, and it's we're still coming to terms with that. But for a while, you could get a lot on a bottle of Iron Brew.
Gingy coin, that's what we need. Gingy coin.
But brew coin. Grant, what's got potential? How do you see it going forward?
I think pretty much the whole sector, just kind of Justin alluded to there. We're in a bull run just now. As he sort of mentioned, there's a few sort of underlying factors. The fact that we've got quantitative easing, which is where your central banks just endlessly print money that's backed by nothing, which is basically fiat currency. That kind of stuff is making Bitcoin and other cryptos look like a great hedge against that, which is what, again, Justin mentioned when he said companies are sort of hedging against it by buying into Bitcoin. I think really anything in the crypto space just now you touch, you should make some kind of return on it. But again, if you want to look at stuff where you can maybe get in a bit cheaper, Litecoin, Ethereum, Zilliqa is another one that's quite good. Engine Coin, VeChain. There's so many of them, and these are all kind of small. There's a lot of coins, basically, so you're talking about billions of coins, so the actual cost per coin is a lot lower than Bitcoin, for example. So you can maybe put in £100 and maybe leave it to the end of the year, or sit for 5 years on it and see what happens. But you should make some returns in the short term, that's for sure, because we're just in one of the biggest bull runs I think any market's ever seen just now in terms of price rises, and it's beautiful to watch when you're sitting staring at the charts. So long may it continue.
Well, I would. My advice would be, I would invest in You Call That Radio, which is a small company, small startup.
I'll buy.
We've went from 0 Patreons to 200 Patrons in about a year. So thank you to everyone who's supporting the show. You can do so at patreon.com/You Call That Radio, and there's a PayPal link there. Hopefully within a couple of months I'll be able to get a Bitcoin, because somebody did say I should get Bitcoin set up so that people could donate. Someone wanted to donate
totally.
a thing. So that's maybe something I can do in the future. So in order to get a Bitcoin address, I need to invest some sort of Bitcoin so that people can then send coins to my wallet. Is that how it works?
I don't even think you need to invest anything to make a wallet. Wallets are free. Yeah. Might
treat myself to a wee wallet.
Wee wallet, that's it. Get it loaded up.
A new wallet. Tunnel Mental says, here's a question for the men. Is QFS going to completely replace the current financial system?
QFS?
I don't know.
I don't think crypto, if I'm not sure exactly what QFS means, but crypto is not going to completely replace the financial system next year or in 5 years or in 10 years, probably, because the digital currency is basically the way everything is going anyway, but that's still going to be owned by governments and that sort of thing. To think that everything becomes decentralized and governments no longer own the capital or the money or the outflow or any of that stuff, I think is pretty naive. I mean, they're going to keep their hands in that as long as humanly possible. They're going to try to exert that control.
The governments could just invest and buy all the Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency. Is there worries about that? Is there any danger of that happening?
Well, hopefully they do it, because I'll be sitting in my own island, sort of with my own government at that point. So hopefully.
If that doesn't do enough, everyone who has already invested in Bitcoin is excellent. If that kind of funding came in, but what would be the negative side effects for that for people who haven't already invested in Bitcoin?
It's tough to say if there's
one thing is if you're a purist, then you don't. A lot of the people don't want the big money in the thing that they thought was for them and for them to be able to have their own power and their own decentralized ability to do all this stuff. I mean, part of the issue with the whole space is like once something gets popular and makes money, then everyone else gets in it because it can make money, and then the big money gets in it because it can make money, and then they decry the fact they cry about the fact that now there's big money in the thing that they liked. It's almost like your favorite band in a way. It's a weird double-edged sword there. There's a paradoxical relationship with how all that stuff is going to work in the future.
Tunnelment was just confirming that QFS is the quantum financial system, a full digital blockchain. So it seems unlikely, Grant, that it would be the be-all and end-all. There will still be the other systems. There will still be the cash. Cash itself, with the pandemic. I mean, I've just for the first time got a contactless card. I was quite against that. I'll maybe play us out with my claim that I will never dink, because I just didn't like the idea of it, or the idea of losing your card and people can do it. But obviously with the pandemic, there's just lots of shops not accepting cash. Everyone, to be on the safe side, is are using their phones, like you said, Google Pay, Apple Pay, and things like that. So it seems like cashless society is actually around the corner. But like you said, there will still be. I mean, the central governments own so much land and money and premises and stuff like that they'll still keep their grip on it. But it could just be a more normal thing, especially if it's combining with PayPal, that people are investing in it, and maybe they just start putting money aside there, because it just I mean, if you bet all your money on the banks, and the banks, because as we've seen with the first 2008 crash, is that when one bank goes down, everything just seems to come tumbling down.
Yeah. No, totally. So with the sort of quantum question, I think that it would take a good while basically for the whole financial system to basically be revolutionised to be fully Bitcoin back. So I think there'll be an integration of Bitcoin in Bitcoin and blockchain, but it won't be a sort of full takeover. There'll still be sort of quantum systems basically in place to run the financial system as we know it. But yeah, I mean, Bitcoin is obviously the way Bitcoin kind of came about was first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then we're at the point now where Bitcoin's effectively won. So the Bitcoin wasn't just welcomed into this, and I got to see that for 2013 and onwards. Bitcoin definitely wasn't welcomed in with open arms. It had to fight its way through the trenches. And now finally it's getting to the point where we're seeing big institutions. But like Justin was saying about sometimes people take that as a bad thing, kind of like try to get Jerry Cinnamon tickets nowadays. You can never try and get your hands on them. There's that many people try to get them. So it's kind of that way, I guess, if you think about it like that. But yeah, it's the financial system is going to be impacted by blockchain technology. Big companies are going to implement it and stuff like that. So Bitcoin was the first ever working blockchain protocol, so it's always going to be known as that, which has revolutionized the world. HTTPS was a protocol that gave us internet, and look at what that's done. I mean, we're talking just now through that. So yeah, there's definitely big things to come.
I think it's a great point to end it on, as well as just the media, the way the media, like you said, it's mocked people that invest in Bitcoins for years, and you still hear a bit of the sneery, like, oh yeah, you've missed the boat. But it does look like they are genuinely rattled by not just Bitcoin, but the way the forum of Reddit got together and destroyed the hedge funds. Have we seen hundreds of millions? Do you think they lost, or have they got it back? Or, I mean, how much money did the hedge fund lose, do you think?
Well, they didn't necessarily lose. I mean, it's a weird thing, because when they squeezed them out, a lot of individuals made money, but then it went back down. So then their shorts ended up working, and they got money back on their shorts, and then it went back up. It's currently up right now. So, I mean, those are I don't know the complete macro viewpoint of how that works out, but there was definitely money to be made by the hedge funds, even though exactly what they didn't want to happen was happening. They happen to have the ability to come up with more money than most retail investors or you and I are able to come up with. They can go to their buddies and get $5 billion, and we can't do that. And so it's I don't know exactly how it's fleshed out, because we have to wait, but they lost money, but then they gained money, but then they lost money again. It's a very big, complicated system.
It's very complicated, but I thank both you, Justin, and you, Grant, for talking to me today about it. It's definitely helped me try and get a better understanding of it, so thank you very much, guys. Thank you. Go and check out brickmadness.com, is that correct?
That's it, brickmadness.com.
Brickmadness.com is a film that Justin's got out just now, so go and please support that. Grant, you've got a few things that you don't want to talk about just now, but please, yes, there's Brick Madness there. And yeah, Grant, just feel free to come back on, and Justin as well. I know when you have got something else that you need to talk about, because it's been really interesting to speak to you guys today, and thank you for explaining in a language that I mostly understood, and I think I'll get there eventually. So thank you very much. Thank you everyone for tuning in. This has been You Call That Radio. We're going to play it out with the secret truth of contactless cards that seems so outdated, because I wrote it about probably about a month before pandemic, but everything's changed so much now that it's certainly out of date for me, because I said I would never dink, but I have dinked. Also, if this is the first time You Call That Radio is on most days or multiple times. We've done 250 shows since lockdown began. Thank you very much for everyone supporting it. Tomorrow we've got 3 episodes. We should hang out more. The ultimate party starters of the Glasgow scene, DJs, producers, just they put on a good party. It's going to be amazing to speak to those guys. They're on at 5. At 7 o'clock we've got Amy Shipway, who started a studio called Alt Fitness Glasgow on the week that lockdown began, and I'm really interested to hear her story about how they've survived throughout lockdown. And then at 8 o'clock we were talking about these guys earlier on during Doghouse. It's Bad Fractals, who are an amazing band who are sitting on their debut album that's produced by Martin Youth Glover, a previous guest who's made The Verve, Pink Floyd's last ever album, Paul McCartney, and all sorts of stuff. So I'm excited about that one tomorrow. Thank you very much, guys. All the best, and remember to hit the subscribe button on YouTube and all that good stuff. And if you do want to support the show, it's patreon.com/YouCallThatRadio.
Bank card these days.
Thanks, Grant. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Cheers, Justin. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, likewise.
Everyone assumes you're going to have a contactless bank card these days. My chip and pin crew are becoming strangers in our own country. A country we built with good old-fashioned button pushing. The worst bit is when they see you're not going to just dink the thing. You want to waste a valuable 5 seconds of their time by pushing 4 buttons. That look and that moment when they say, "Oh, it's one of they cards," and I respond with, "Yeah, I'm old school, lol," and I hate myself every time I do it for responding that way. Fuck's sake, makes me cringe that I say I'm old school, lol. It reminds me of when supermarket counter staff asked me if I had a loyalty card, and since the dawn of time I would say I would probably just lose it, lol. Earlier this year I got my first loyalty card to stop that cringy conversation. I don't regret that decision as my points are growing, but I will use all the loyalty points in staying loyal to my chip and pin crew. I'll go contactless once you all move to fingerprints and retina scans, because that's what you want to save valuable time. A second saved every transaction. That adds up to 1 whole minute every 60 transactions. Think of all the work you will get done. I will never dink. Remember they switched card payments from signatures to PIN numbers for security? Years later, they just went, "Oh, fuck security, let's go contactless." I lost my bank card for a few days there. I got it back. It wasn't contactless, thankfully. How do you contactless people sleep at night when you lose your card? It's actually a good way of staying awake. If you ever feel tired, as if you're going to fall asleep and you have work to do, then simply throw your contactless card into the street outside your window and you're almost guaranteed to stay awake. Fuck the coffee, fuck the uppers, fuck the fucking Red fucking Bull. Simply leave your card on a pavement and get some work done, because you seem very busy. But I will never dink. But apparently it's okay, because it can only steal up to £30 per transaction with your bank card up to 4 times a day and only take 120 quid a day. Then you just write to the banks a wee letter and ask them for money. What's in it for you? Why do people want this? I get why shops want it, I get why the banks want it, but why do you want to risk getting bumped so easily to save yourself 10 seconds in a queue? Are you so busy you don't have enough time to put in a PIN number anymore? Are things that hectic, mate? Are they, aye? Or does it make you feel cool? Do you think you're in Star Trek, aye? Well, enjoy. After all, they can only bump you 120 quid a day. And you're so busy getting so much work done,
So very
I'm
busy.
sure you'll make that back in no time. But I will never dink. I will never dink.
And I did dink, because what happened was a pandemic. I lost my bank card and they sent me a contactless one. I had no choice in the matter. So it just shows you that things do change, and please don't take anything you've heard today as financial advice. But I think that what my takeaway from that is that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is a rebellion against the current banking system that we know is not fit for purpose. So people are trying to find a better way of doing things, and so far people that did invest at the ground level have made a lot of money off it. It looks like it's going to just keep getting bigger, but we don't know, because nobody knows. The world is a very strange place right now, but it looks like a fair bet that it will become more popular. So thank you very much to Justin and Grant for explaining things to me. We've got a couple of comments in here as well. Thanks, dudes. Lindsay, cheers, says Lee. The big banks are still printing their profits. We need a better way. Blockchain, says Tunnel Mental. Great chat, guys, says Mikey. Kaching, says Petra. Oh man, I'm still clueless. Skin, yeah, same here. I feel like I understand it better, but I don't have enough money to invest in anything. But I think I would. I think I would invest in it if I had money. So yeah, I'll see you all guys all tomorrow. I'm just going to share a wee video with what's coming up on You Call That Radio TV. And yeah, big ups Grant, big ups Justin. And enjoy. I'll see you all tomorrow at 5 o'clock, then 7 o'clock, and then 8 o'clock. We've got the 3 big shows on tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to chatting to We Should Hang Out More, Amy, and Bang Crosby, and the Bad Fractals. So it should be good crack. This is what you can expect this week on You Call That Radio.
Yeah, no respect in the way I respect to the man like Mark. They love what the man talk on the radio. In case you never know. You call that radio, call that the radio. You call that radio, call that the radio. Come and say, in my name, oh, just go with the flow. In my name, oh, just go with the flow. Till you miss a mark, now go bend down low. Till you miss a mark, now go bend down low. Boom. Lot of mercy. Yo. You call that radio. You call that radio. Come and say, don't you be a nether man, I'll go lose your head. Say, don't you be a nether, me say, and lose the head. Me say, radio, call that a radio. Straight from outer Glasgow. Straight from outer Glasgow, nice enough on the studio. Come and say, in my name, oh, just go with the flow. In my name, oh, just go with the flow. Till you miss a mark, now go bend down low. Till you miss a mark, now go bend down low. No radio, you call that the radio.
Oh, fuck.
If you don't